Good evening. I'm here today with a miniature from the Privateer Press lineup. It is a War Machine miniature. It is Warcaster Gorton Grunback from the Mercenaries faction. I will be painting up him this evening. Yeah, so let's get into it. Never done a video like this before, so I don't quite know how it's going to go or what exactly I'm going to say, but that's alright, we'll wing it and hopefully I'll get more comfortable and used to it as I go. So I'm going to start off, I guess I'll start off by explaining how I'm going to paint him. So the overall idea for this paint scheme is to go with a grey colour. Unfortunately the colour I was going to use to highlight him has dried up because I didn't put the lid on it correctly. So I will have to purchase some more of that before I do the highlighting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a base coat of Iron Hull Grey from the P3 paints range, which is made by Privateer Press. I guess I could talk about that, so I might as well. So yeah, I'm going to do a comparison between the three paint types that I've used during my miniatures career. Now my total years spent doing tabletop wargaming is in fact 15 years. I started off doing Games Workshop's War Machine 40,000. I then moved into did I say War Machine 40,000? I meant Warhammer 40,000. If I did, I apologise. Yeah, I used the Games Workshop, I think it's actually Citadel Miniatures that makes the paints. I used their paint range while I painted those, and I had issues at the time. This was, as people who have been doing this hobby for as long as I have would know, it was the era of terrible paint bots from Citadel Miniatures because the lids didn't close properly. Air would get in and dry up your paints. So after playing that for several years, God, probably about 6 or 7 years of play, I heard about a game called War Machine from a new company called Privateer Press. This was about 2004, I'm going to say. For those people who know their release dates better than I can remember, it was just before Apotheosis. So this was before the days of epic warcasters and unit attachment. Oh no, unit attachments were there, but each faction only had one. And you only had 4 warcasters to choose from, and Hordes was non-existent. It didn't exist at all. And for years, when that game came out, it actually timed quite nicely with the release of Vallejo paints. Now I don't know if this was a global release or if it was around before then, but this is when it became available to me commercially here in Canberra. So yeah, I started using Vallejo paints. Now the Vallejo paint range I actually think is fantastic. However, the biggest however with the Vallejo paint range that I've always found is it's very, very inconsistent. There's no... you can have 2 pots of the exact same paint and they will be completely different, both in terms of colour and in terms of consistency. And yeah, I think that might have been teething issues, and they may have moved out of that issue now, but as I was considering going back to Games Workshop, Privateer Press actually announced their own line of paints, the P3 range, which is what I'm using now. And I have used that now ever since it was released. Actually, I got some, and because they were very technical, when they were explaining it, they would explain how their paints were actually better because they actually increased the pigments, and so their colours would be stronger and their colours would stick. You would need less coats and things like that. So I gave it a try. I must admit, I'm to this day thoroughly impressed with almost all aspects of it. The one thing that I'm not impressed with the Privateer Press or the P3 paints range is their metallic colours. They are god awful. So that's a bit of history into me painting miniatures. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I will move the camera closer. Oh, excuse the dinging there. I'll move the camera closer and show you what I've painted today, and then we'll call it a day. Can you... Oh, there we go. So I've applied a bit of iron hull grey to, it's actually quite disorientating doing this through a camera. So I've done pretty much the back bit here and there, and then sort of up and over the top here, and I've done pretty much all of his right arm, and I've done part of his left arm. But that's a good 20 minutes of painting. I've also done the leg, what do you know? But yeah, so we'll go through this entire miniature and the process which I used to paint it. I am unfortunately going to have to, as I said at the beginning of the video, I may have said at the beginning of the video, I can't remember now, but I did leave my pot of frostbite. Let's see if we can focus on it. Yeah, focus. Focus, please. Come on, do it. Do me a favour. There we go. So, yeah, P3's frostbite. I unfortunately did not realise, but the lid inside here, this white, this interior bit, all in here where my finger, literally where my finger shoved into the gap here, it was full of paint and the lid didn't close properly. I thought it did, and didn't realise that it had in fact not closed properly, filled up with too much paint, and then dried out the entire pot. So we'll see if we can edit this down into something which isn't 20 minutes long, and until then, until next time, enjoy your day.